In this lesson, we're going to talk about two different skills. So we're going to talk about comparing integers, and we're also going to talk about ordering integers. So your goal for today is I can compare and order integers. Again, we need to remember what integers are. They are positive and negative whole numbers. So everything from negative a million all the way to a million and even beyond that. Okay, so when we compare, we have to remember two things. The farther we are to the right on the number line, the larger the numbers get. So just to remind you, here's our number line. Here's 0. I'll call this 10, and I'll call this negative 10. So the farther we are to the right, the larger the numbers get. The farther we go to the left, the smaller the numbers get. Okay, so negative 10 is a lot smaller than negative 3. And that's sometimes difficult to understand because in middle school you're not dealing a lot with negative numbers in real life just yet. But think about it this way. Would you rather have me take away $3 from you or $10 from you? Most of you would say you'd rather have me take away $3 because having me take away $10 would mean that I'm taking away a lot more. Okay, so we use three symbols when we're comparing integers. The first symbol that we're going to use is called greater than. The second symbol we're going to use means less than. And then the third symbol we use is equal. Now, you're probably very familiar with the equal sign. Equal means equal. There's nothing more complicated than that. Okay, so 2 equals 2. Something that equals something else means that they are identical to each other. Now, oftentimes students have trouble remembering the difference between these two signs, okay? Again, I'm going to point to the number line. Now, did you see how I just made that number line? I drew a long stick, and at one end, I drew this, and at one end, I drew this. Now, the numbers over here we know are smaller, so less than. Do you see this little less than sign here? The numbers over here are greater, so that's the greater than sign, okay? Another way to think about it is that no matter which one of these signs you have, this right here is always going to be pointing towards the smallest number. So let's actually take a look at what that looks like. All right, so here I have two integers, and I need to use the greater than sign, the less than sign, or the equal sign. So I have 64 and I have 46, okay? So which number is smaller? Well, 46 is smaller, so I need to make sure that the tiny point is pointing to the 46. And this is actually called the greater than sign because 64 is greater than 46. Okay? Over here I have 13 compared to 21. So again, you can ask yourself which number is smaller? 13. Then you make sure that the little tip is pointed towards the 13. This is called the less than sign because the smaller number is on the left. So 13 is less than 21. Now here I have an absolute value thrown in there. Remember I told you, whenever you see an absolute value, you need to go ahead and pause and circle the absolute value and then solve it. So the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So now how do I compare 4 to 4? Well, that would be equal. Over here, I have negative 4 compared to 2. Which one is smaller? Well, you should say that the negative 4 is smaller. So you're going to choose the symbol that has the little tip pointed to the negative 4. And again, this is the less than sign because it's saying negative 4 is less than 2. All right, so here you have two negative numbers. And before we solve that one, I want to draw a little number line here to remind you how to think about this. So, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. I need to erase this a little bit. Then we have negative 4, negative 5. Okay, so here is negative 3. Here is negative 5. Which one is smaller? You should say that the negative 5 is smaller. Again, think about money. Which would you rather have me take away from you? $3 or $5? You should say $3 because if I took away 5, I'm taking away more money. And remember, the farther you go this way, the smaller the numbers get. The farther you go this way, the bigger the numbers get. So -5 is the smallest, and you want to choose the sign with the little tip pointing to the -5. This sign is called the greater than sign because it's saying -3 is greater than -5. Okay? Then we have this guy right here. We have an absolute value. Circle the absolute value. What's the absolute value of -9? 9. So I have 0 compared to 9. Which one's smaller? The 0 is smaller. So I'm going to choose the sign with the little tip pointing to the 0. And this says 0 is less than 9. All right, you go ahead and try these 3 on your own. Remember to circle the absolute values if you have them. All right, if you're not done, go ahead and pause the video. And if you are done, let's go ahead and get started. So here I had the absolute value of -17. I changed it to 17. So, oops, I made a mistake. Look at that. I didn't see that -20. All right, so we have 17 and -20. Which one is smaller? -20 is smaller. So I'm going to choose the sign that has the tip pointing to the -20. And the way I read this is 17 is greater than -20. Okay, now here I have two negative numbers, -72 and -52. So which one is smaller? You should have said that the -72 is smaller, because if I have a number line here, here's -52, and over here is -72. Okay, it would be worse if you lost $72 versus $52. So this says -72 is less than -52. All right, over here we have -16 and -1. So which one is smaller? Well, you should say that -16 is smaller. Okay, oops, let's erase these guys that I have here. So -16 could be over here, but -1 is going to be right over here. Okay, so -16 is smaller. So this says -16 is less than -1. All right, that's it for comparing integers. Now let's talk about ordering integers. So ordering is just as it sounds. We're putting them in order. But there's two different ways to put them in order. And so here's my number line once again, so I can show you what these words mean. Here's my 0. Okay, so let me put some numbers on here. Let's do that, and let's do this and this. Okay, so I have a couple numbers on my number line. So when ordering numbers from least to greatest, so least means smallest, and greatest means biggest. So when I'm going from smallest to biggest, we move from left to right on the number line. So we're going to move from over here all the way to over here. Okay? So if I said order these numbers from least to greatest, it would be -8, -2, 0, 3, 9. Okay? Smallest, biggest. But when you order from greatest to least, okay, and that's going to mean biggest to smallest, you move from right to left on the number line. So you would go 9, 3, 0, -2, -8, because again, you're going from the biggest all the way down to the smallest. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Here's a blank number line. Okay, I always put 0 in the middle because that helps me see where the dividing line is between positive and negative. Now, let's put these numbers on the number line first. Okay, so I'm looking at them, and they're actually all positive numbers. So here I have 1, I have 3, 5, 7, and 9. Okay? So order them from least to greatest. So this is smallest, this is biggest. So it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. If I asked you to order from greatest to least, you would tell me 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. So please know there's a big difference. All right, let's look at another example. Okay, again, we have all positive numbers, but they're a little bit bigger. I like to put my 0 in the middle so that I know where to start. All right, so let's see. What's going to be the closest one to 0? 19, and then 32, 47, 53, and 68. Okay, now they're asking me least to greatest, smallest to biggest. So it's 19, 32, 47, 53, 68. If I asked you to go from greatest to least, you would tell me the other way around. You would go from here and work your way backwards. It would be 68, 53, 47, 32, and 19. All right? So now we have some all negative numbers, but we have a negative number and an absolute value bar. So again, whenever you see that absolute value bar, circle it, and let's get rid of it. What's the absolute value of negative 9? 9. Okay? I'm going to put my 0 in the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and graph my numbers. Now, this is the only positive number, so I'm just going to put it over here, 9, so I can get that out of the way. Then I have negative 15, negative 10, and negative 9. So I'm going to do negative 9, negative 10, and negative 15. Okay? Now it's asking me to go from greatest to least. That's going to be biggest to smallest. So when, this is important actually, when you're going back and you're ordering, you remember how I changed this absolute value of negative 9 to 9. Okay, when I'm actually putting down my answer to order them, I need you to go back and put the absolute value of negative 9 so that I know what the original number was. Okay, negative 9, negative 10, negative 15. Now if I asked you to go from least to greatest, that would be smallest to biggest. So I would start over here, negative 15, negative 10, negative 9, and then the absolute value of negative 9. Always go back and write your original numbers first. All right, you try this one. Remember, plot it on the number line first. All right, go ahead and hit pause if you're not done. If you are done, let's talk about it. So it asked you to go from least to greatest, but I included both situations here so you could see both. Once you put them on the number line, you're going to go least, and that's going to be smallest to greatest, which is biggest. So negative 5, negative 2, 0, and 2. But if I asked you to go from greatest to least, you would start over here, 2, 0, negative 2, negative 5. All right, you go ahead and try this one. Remember to take care of your absolute value first, but also remember when you put your absolute value in your answer here that it needs to be in those absolute value bars again. All right, go ahead and hit pause if you're not done, and if you are done, let's talk about it. So first I solved my absolute value of -8, which was 8. And then I put my numbers on the number line. Now it's asking me for greatest to least. That's going to mean over here the biggest all the way back down to the smallest. Now remember I said you need to include the absolute value in your answer. So we had the absolute value of -8, 7, 3, -2, -4. I also included the opposite situation just in case. If I went from least to greatest, that's going to mean smallest to biggest. So -4, -2, 3, 7, absolute value of -8. All right, that is the end of this lesson for comparing and ordering integers. Make sure you ask me any questions you have in class.